I'm in love with my future.
The future for many, though, looks uncertain and the present bleak.
Our underfunding this year was £118 million.
With council funding depleted, services are on the brink.
Who's going to be the person that they're calling at midnight if it's not us?
And along Britain's streets, everyday life can be a fight.
They are basic human rights and necessities, and people are having to fight for that.
But I know better than to drive you home.
Welcome to Gifted Young Gravesham. Almost every night, teenagers in this corner of Kent have somewhere to go and explore their potential.
And this is my drawing of David in ballpoint pen, which is one of my favourite works.
For years, their core funding has been provided by Kent County Council. 2 weeks ago, it got cut, all £100,000 of it.
So we work in one of the most deprived areas in the country. Okay, so we already are facing young people with needs. You know, we've got young people that don't have clothes that fit them. We've got young people that don't eat properly. You know, so we feed them, we clothe them when we need to. But on top of that, we're also, you know, we've got antisocial behaviour. If you've suddenly got nowhere for young people to go, you're going to see antisocial behaviour increase for sure.
Think that will cost more than 100 grand?
Of course it will. Yeah, without a doubt, it's going to be 10 times that.
Along with selling Christmas cards to raise money, they're now applying for grant after grant. But every other charity that's had their funding cut too is doing the same.
We used to be able to give such a good service to young people. So I feel a bit like crying now. So, but yeah, it's all gone. And I just think it's the wrong move, Paul. It really is. You know, it really is the wrong move. These young people are being failed.
Today, the government announced an increase of 6.5% for local council budgets in England. Kent's overspend, though, is nearly 10% of their annual budget, £118 million.
This building's on the market. I'm afraid we can no longer afford to run it.
Cuts are going to have to be widespread.
There isn't a single area that we're not having to touch. And we are going to have a list. And then we're going to go through that list and we're going to have a look at areas where we can save some more money.
How terrified are you of looking at that list?
Oh, I'm dreading it. You know, and people joke about sleepless nights. I don't think there's a morning where I don't wake up at 4 o'clock thinking, my God, could we do this or could we do that?
The reason, he says, social care, which eats up 70% of Kent's budget. The blame, says this Conservative council leader, is national, not local.
We've had a Conservative government for 13 years. Have they made your job any easier?
In the last 2 or 3 years, no, they haven't. They've made it really, really difficult. We're underfunded, we're undersupported, and I really don't think that they understand the role of a local government.
Councils can't go bankrupt like a business or person. They have to balance their books. But if they can't, they issue what's known as a Section 114. And of late, more and more have been issued to councils, be they red or blue. There are 7 councils that have issued a Section 114 notice, effectively declaring bankruptcy since 2018. Now, almost 1 in 5 councils fear they will have to issue a Section 114 notice, according to the Local Government Association.
Are you in danger of that?
As I sit here today, no, but we're very close. You know, we are in a critical situation.
Cost cutting alone, though, isn't enough. Many councils are going to have to raise council tax too. In Derby, it's going up by the maximum, 4.99%. Not that it will actually raise that much.
The first thing they say to us when we're asking for more money is they say to us, have you increased council tax by the maximum amount? So I can't go to government and ask for more money if we don't take them tough decisions here.
Are you saying your arms behind your back here?
Absolutely, there's no choice.
So how much will it actually increase your revenues?
1% council tax increase gives us about £1 million.
Oh, right.
Yes.
With money on the slide, councils consider cutting all but essential services. At this workshop in Kent for people with multiple sclerosis, a charity for disabled people, run by disabled people, fears while their users think they're essential, the council may not.
It would be a worry that we would lose our funding.
And for everyone that relies on you and the service you provide,
It doesn't bear thinking about. I am terrified.
You cut the support for people preparing for their assessment. So their assessment, they might not be able to get everything over their assessment, so then their care is cut, support is cut, then they can't get out in the community, then they might not be able to work. It's such a domino effect.
The Department for Levelling Up say they've made an extra £5 billion available to councils in England last year, and now more than £64 billion next year, including £1 billion of support for social care. For Jessica, the value these youth services have provided her can't be measured in pounds and pence.
This youth service has impacted me in a way that I can't even describe. It's the best thing that's happened to me. This is the best thing in my life.
Authorities say they've endured years of cuts and are now at breaking point. Their residents say what life looks like then is unimaginable.
Well, earlier I spoke to the Local Government Association Chair and Labour Councillor Sean Davies. I started by asking him if a 6.5% increase in funding was enough to stave off bankruptcy for councils.
No, it's not. We're seeing double-digit increases in both demand for services and cost of providing those services, adult social care, children's services, temporary accommodation. All of those services are being used by record numbers of people at record costs, and unfortunately a 6% or just over 6% increase just simply will not touch the sides.
So 1 in 5 council leaders in England said they feared going bust. Does this figure change that? Is it going to improve it or not?
No, we'd assumed this level of funding from the government, so we've not received a penny more from what we've assumed already. So I think that number, that 1 in 5 number, will increase, and we're seeing councils already speaking to the government about their financial distress this financial year. That number will grow next year and the year after if nothing else changes. And I do think even at this late stage, we're urging the Treasury and the government as a whole to look again at what they're saying to councils, because simply we will see far more councils going bankrupt, and that's bad for councils, but it's also bad for communities as services will be withdrawn.
Well, let's talk about some of those services, because, I mean, is it the case that adult social care is really absorbing the vast amount of councils' budgets? So how much is it absorbing?
So 80p in every pound a council spends is on social care, whether that be children's social care or adult social care, and we're seeing services to the most vulnerable adults and the most vulnerable children increasing significantly in costs to provide, but also the massive demand. Now, some of that is because, for example, people are waiting to see an NHS consultant to get treatment. So, for example, the person who needs the hip operation is waiting for the hip operation and in the meantime needs social care at home. We're also seeing far more children with complex mental health, emotional and educational needs post the pandemic coming forward to asking councils for support, and the costs of those services are also increasing. And we've got more people in temporary accommodation than ever before, and that is also costing. So taking those 3 areas together are the 3 areas that councils are spending more than 80p in every pound of their funding on.
But do you accept some responsibility for some of the mismanagement that has gone on? I mean, just to quote you what Michael Gove has said, that the councils unable to balance the books had seen, and I quote, failures of leadership, management and governance, and they've taken unmerited risks. Does he have a point?
Councils of all political persuasions have found themselves in that financial distress. 1 in 5 councils say they are likely to be in that situation this year or next year. That is not about bad management. That is about systematic underfunding of local government over the last 13 years, coupled with double-digit increases of demand and the cost of providing services to that demand over the last 2 years.
But let me just put a few specific examples to you, because Croydon Council, for example, spent more per square foot building a new headquarters than was spent on the Shard. They amassed £1.6 billion worth of debts. Birmingham got into trouble because of a £2 billion equal pay compensation claim. Nottingham lost £38 million setting up an energy company. All of those examples are potentially failures of leadership and management, aren't they? I mean, do you take some responsibility?
Look, as a sector, we are really keen to support councils who find themselves in difficult circumstances. And each of those 3 examples that you've highlighted, local decision makers have been held accountable for those decisions. As in almost all of those cases, there's a new chief executive and a new leader of a council in place, and we'll continue to support those councils in that area of need.
So some councils haven't helped themselves.
But this is also also about a pattern of over the last decade or more of councils being told to be more commercial, to reduce their dependency on government grants, to go and take risks, to go and act like the private sector, to raise money. And in some cases, as you've highlighted, that has not gone at all well. However, in many other cases, that has not been the situation. The vast majority of councils are well-led, well-managed, accountable organisations. And what you're hearing from the sector now is that time and time again, more and more councils of all political persuasions, of all types across the country, are facing the cliff edge of demand simply going up and the supply of money going down.
Sean Davies, thanks very much.
Thank you.